Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio. Thank you for joining us
Bonjour tout le
once
monde,
again
ici
here
Michael
on
Serapio.
CPAC.
Merci d'être une fois encore avec nous à l'antenne de CPAC pour notre reportage spécial du discours du trône. Chaque discours du trône est dignifié, reprend les éléments d'une démocratie constitutionnelle et d'une démocratie parlementaire. Mais cette fois-ci, ce sera différent. Le roi lui-même est présent. Et ce sera le roi Charles, le chef d'État du Canada, qui va lire le discours du trône faisant état des priorités du gouvernement Carney pour le 45e Parlement. C'est la 20e visite du roi au Canada, sa première en tant que roi, et son arrivée a été décrite comme le retour chez lui du roi. Le discours va contenir des éléments enracinés dans les pratiques traditionnelles et démocratiques et va également faire état des éléments pratiques d'un gouvernement minoritaire. Il y aura donc beaucoup de choses à discuter ce matin avec moi, Laurie Turnbull, et sa collègue. Avant d'entreprendre notre discussion, je veux qu'on jette un coup d'œil au Sénat où se trouve Andrew Thompson. Bonjour, Andrew. Bonjour, Michael. Il est là où le discours du trône sera lu. Parlez-nous un peu des préparations qui se font au Sénat et de ce qui se passe à l'extérieur pendant que le roi s'achemine vers la Chambre rouge. Oui, il y a un tapis rouge jusqu'à la Chambre du Sénat. Il y a des foules à l'extérieur du bâtiment, ainsi que des troupes militaires. Vous entendez également les cloches qui convoquent les sénateurs vers la Chambre du Sénat. Nous avons vu des dignitaires s'acheminer vers le Sénat, des députés, l'ancienne gouverneure générale Adrienne Clarkston, les premiers ministres provinciaux, y compris Wab Kinew du Manitoba. Nous nous attendons à voir quelques 500 personnes pour le discours, y compris les juges de la Cour suprême et le président de la Chambre des communes qui va bientôt arriver avec les députés. Avant l'arrivée du roi, il y aura 100 membres du régiment royal qui vont le saluer avec 21 coups de canon. Le Premier ministre et le cabinet va arriver au Sénat et sera accueilli par le président du Sénat. Une fois que tout le monde sera assis, la partie formelle de la journée va commencer avec le gentilhomme du bâton noir qui va appeler les députés. Oui, le gentilhomme du bâton noir va convoquer les députés. Donc, il y a beaucoup de choses à voir. Donc, merci, Andrew. Andrew est au Sénat où le discours du trône sera.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio.
Part of the scene. This is the image that the government wanted to give, that the King is at home here in Canada, and this is a sovereignty.
That there have been many elements of this ceremony in the Red Chamber, and we've been focused here on what's been happening in the House of Commons, but as the royal procession made their way into the Red Chamber, there was an Indigenous greeting from First Nations, there was a Métis fiddler that played, there were traditions of the Inuit people, underlining, not just I guess the historical British and French ties of this country, roots of this country, but also the Indigenous roots of this country. And you were remarking about that, Catherine, when we were not on air, but just the diversity and how that's a marked difference from what we often see in the United States.
Tellement, ce qui saute aux yeux depuis hier dans toute cette organisation.
Absolutely, what's been so clear ever since the beginning of the planning and the ceremony is class, and I'm not just talking about the King and Queen,
quand on compare
but
aux
everybody.
États-Unis actuellement, quand on compare
And class, dignity, decorum, and when we listen to the kinds of things President Trump is saying these days, we can feel the enormous difference. And it's very important to portray us this way to the United States and to the world at large.
say to ourselves. I think that's very important in this moment because I think the country has been looking for a way to express its nationalism ever since the threat was issued by Donald Trump late last year with the call on the 51st state. You know, Laurie, when you look at this procession, the ceremony, all the traditions that unfold, and I know you are a big fan of the traditions and conventions that govern this country, what comes to mind to you?
Well, I mean, I think a few things. One thing is that, and this is another thing we were sort of saying as not on air, but there are so many people in this room who typically don't get along very well. I guess Rob, you kind of did say that on air, right? There's people in this room who spend a lot of time kind of swiping at one another. They're used to that. They have different opinions on things. There's a lot of personal differences between Canadian politicians, and we're used to that. But when the sovereign is there, and they're all gathered to hear, you know, what the plan is, and they're respectful, and there is a sense that as much as there's politics going on here, we can rise above that. We can have a moment where this is about the country, this is about sovereignty, this is about all of us having a common interest in what's best for Canada. And so we can actually park some of that nonsense that's so frustrating sometimes, and they all can, you know, sit there and get along and behave. And so it's really nice. And I think it's important for Canadians to see that, because sometimes we look at these chambers and all it is swiping and nonsense and video clips that they're going to repackage and sell to their funders, and it's just annoying. But this is actually very lovely.
Yeah, well, you know, it is this moment of cooperation, this moment of unity, this moment of Canadianism. Yes, Rob.
Michael, if I can say, just to follow up on something that Laurie said, we're in the middle of the hockey playoff season. We watch Canadian hockey players pull the sweaters over the heads of each other and bash each other's brains out on the ice, and then at the end of it all, they shake hands and they hug each other. That's the equivalent of what we're seeing on the Senate floor among some of these rivals. I also want to mark the sense of occasion. This is a rarity. It hasn't happened since 1977, when Charles' mother addressed or delivered the speech from the throne. And what was going on then? It was another moment of perilous times in terms of our national unity. The Parti québécois had just been elected the fall before, René Lévesque and the Parti québécois. And they were threatening to break up the country, have a referendum, break up the country. There is a threat to our national unity now. And so in times of peril to our national unity, we roll out the sovereign. There's a lot of argument and conjecture about whether or not we should remain a constitutional monarchy, but this is the second time in the last 50 years where we've rolled out the monarchy as a symbol of our unity to try and bring us together.
Symbol of unity, but you know, I think also arguably continuity, right? Yeah. Because we were, you think of King Charles. Well, this is his 20th visit to Canada, his first as the king, but his 20th visit to Canada is showing deep ties that goes across generations of people here. And when you think about the number of prime ministers we have had in 20 years, the continuity, the through line here is King Charles, and before him, Queen Elizabeth, who made her first visit back in the 1950s. So this through line of generations and prime ministers, you know, we were talking about the past speeches, and there was, for example, like 1957 was the first time the Queen delivered the speech from the throne, the late Queen Elizabeth, and she was invited by Louis Saint Laurent, and he thought he would win the election, but in fact Diefenbaker won the election. So it was Diefenbaker up there, and wouldn't it have been wonderful to sit beside Louis Saint Laurent and say, so how do you feel now? You know, because it was not he that was sitting beside the Queen, but it is that continuity that the monarchy, the Canadian monarch, has played a role in, Geneviève.
Et c'est peut-être l'atout de la monarchie, je veux dire, parce qu'on conteste beaucoup en ce moment.
And that is the
quand même des questions qui se posent.
asset that the monarchy has. There are a lot of debates, especially in Quebec, some regions more than others, but you know, if we don't have this, we'd have to find another way. I do like your notion of continuity, because we have governors general, but they're there for 5 years. Sometimes they serve 5 years twice, but the monarchy is there for the long-term continuity and stability. What better way to ensure stability than to have somebody who's there for life? And that's what monarchs and the succession present. Of course, they have to behave and take their role seriously. Queen Elizabeth absolutely did that, and that's why she was so deeply loved. She cared so deeply about her duty And Charles will not be there as long, but he seems to take it just as seriously. And that really is the biggest asset of the monarchy. It may also be a way of avoiding some deviations. This may be what we are. But think about the disgraceful scenes we've seen in the White House when Volodymyr Zelensky was visiting Washington, when the president of South Africa was visiting Washington. Just remember the tone of both those ambushes, because that's what they were. We don't have that here. Yes, parliamentarians debate, like hockey players sometimes fight pretty hard, but that is part of the process. And it's also part of the process. It's quite natural to question the monarchy. But nonetheless, it remains that for all the reasons we've cited, so far in Canada, we've avoided the kind of going off the rails that we're seeing in the U.S. and everything else that we're seeing in the South.
On what makes an efficient parliamentary government, the dignified and the efficient, and the crown signifying the dignified, the political, the governance is the efficient. And in this case, when you roll out examples like what happened with President Zelensky at the White House and the South African president at the White House, it's hard to use the word dignified. And yet, in this instance, we see the embodiment of the dignified in the opening of the Canadian Parliament. And, you know, and this is a bit of editorialization on my part, admittedly, but I think that's something that Canadians can be very proud of, that this is how our democracy has worked and has continued to work despite challenges. You mentioned the challenge of the 70s, the first referendum in 1980, you know, and we will continue to have challenges as a country, but it is a testament to the durability of this country that the dignified and the efficient has brought us to this point where we still exist and have a distinct place in the world. So, and that is a rant on my part. I apologize. That's
a good rant.
I'll give you another example of how it symbolizes what the country is all about. Canadians, particularly Francophone Canadians, a lot of them younger, are going to hear a king who speaks a very elegant French. And it's going to surprise them, probably, that somebody who represents London speaks a more elegant French and a more evolved French than our own Prime Minister. So that's an example of how the monarchy has also served Canada as well.
Well, and with that, Rob, let's go back to the Red Chamber. The usher of the Black Rod has returned. Let's take a listen.
Order! An order! May it please Your Majesty. The House of Commons has elected me their Speaker, though I am but little able to fulfill the important duties thus assigned to me. If in the performance of those duties I should at any time fall into error, I pray that the fault may be imputed to me and not to the House of Commons, whose servant I am, and who, through me, the better to enable them to discharge their duty to their king and country, humbly claim all their undoubted rights and privileges, especially that they may have freedom of speech in their debates, access to Your Majesty's person at all seasonable times, and that their proceedings may receive from Your Majesty the most favorable construction.
May it please Your Majesty, the House of Commons has elected me their Speaker, though I am but little able to fulfill the important duties thus assigned to me. If, in the performance of those duties, I should at any time fall into error, I pray that the fault may be imputed to me and not to the Commons, whose servant I am, and who, through me, the better to enable them to discharge their duty to their king and country, humbly claim all their undoubted rights and privileges, especially that they may have freedom of speech in their debates, access to Your Majesty's person at all seasonable times, and that their proceedings may receive from Your Majesty the most favorable construction.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by His Majesty the King to declare to you that he freely confides in the duty and attachment of the House of Commons to His Majesty's person and government, and not doubting that their proceedings will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, he grants and upon all occasions will recognize and allow their constitutional privileges. I am commanded also to assure you that the Commons shall have ready access to His Majesty upon all seasonable occasions, and that their proceedings, as well as your words and actions, will constantly receive from him the most favorable construction.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by His Majesty the King to declare to you that he freely confides in the duty and attachment of the House of Commons to His Majesty's person and government, and not doubting that their proceedings will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, he grants, and upon all occasions will recognize and allow their constitutional privileges. I am commanded also to assure you that the Commons shall have ready access to His Majesty upon all seasonable occasions, and that their proceedings, as well as your words and actions, will constantly receive from him the most favorable construction.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity, and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies.
Today, I see representatives from every part of Canada, from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, to Victoria, British Columbia, and Arviat in Nunavut. I see the guardians of the fundamental rights and freedoms guaranteed in the Canadian Charter. And as King, I thank you for your service to your fellow Canadians across the length and breadth of this vast and great nation.
You speak for your communities, representing an incredible richness of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. En encourageant la collaboration,
by fostering collaboration and engaging in respectful, constructive debates, you will ensure this government is capable of bold and fair action to support Canadians.
It has been nearly 70 years since the Sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving full independence, and witnessing immense growth. Canada has embraced its British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing.
We must be clear-eyed. The world is more dangerous and uncertain place than at any point since the Second World War. Canada is facing challenges that are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément,
in parallel, the government is working to strengthen its relationships with reliable trading partners and allies around the world, recognizing that Canada has what the world needs and the values the world respects. Canada is ready to build a coalition of like-minded countries that share its values, that believe in international cooperation and the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. In this new, fast-evolving world, Canada is ready to lead. This will be demonstrated in June, when Canada convenes the G7 summit.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million. Le gouvernement.
The government will protect the programs that are already saving families thousands of dollars every year. These include childcare and pharmacare. In addition to these, the government has recently expanded the Canadian Dental Care Plan to cover about 8 million Canadians, saving the average person more than $800 annually.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian economy out of 13. Internal barriers to trade and labour mobility cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility by Canada Day.
Numerous premiers have already taken vital steps to break down provincial and territorial barriers to trade. Together, we will build on that progress to deliver free trade across the nation. This is critical to unlocking Canada's full economic potential But it's not enough.
To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyse projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to Indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realise its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last. Éliminer ces obstacles qui freinent.
By removing these barriers that have held back our economy, we will unleash a new era of growth that will ensure we don't just survive ongoing trade wars, but emerge from them stronger than ever. It will enable Canada to become the world's leading energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy, to build an industrial strategy that will make Canada more globally competitive while fighting climate change, to build hundreds of thousands of good careers in the skilled trades, and to build Canada into the world's leading hub for science and innovation.
Critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada Homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders. The government will make the housing market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. To be truly strong, Canada must be secure. To that end, the government will introduce legislation to enhance security at Canada's borders. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies will have new tools to stop the flow of fentanyl and its precursors. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export, to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars. Le gouvernement protégera.
The government will protect Canada's sovereignty by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. It will boost Canada's defense industry by joining Rearm Europe to invest in transatlantic security with Canada's European partners. And it will invest to strengthen its presence in the North, as this region, which is an integral part of Canada, faces new threats.
To protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come at home or abroad. To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCM Peace personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners and Indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions. The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with committing these crimes, along with human trafficking and drug smuggling. During this time of great change, Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique. La langue française et la culture.
The French language and the Quebec culture are at the heart of the Canadian identity. They define the country that Canadians and I love so much. Canada is a country that respects and celebrates its official languages and Indigenous languages. The government is determined to protect the institutions that bring these cultures and this identity to the world, such as CBC, Radio-Canada. It will protect the people who give us access to fresh, healthy, and quality food, agricultural producers. And it will protect supply management.
Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy. the government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera.
The government will cap the total number of temporary foreign workers and international students to less than 5% of Canada's population by 2027. By doing this, the government will attract the best talent in the world to build our economy while sending a clear message to Canadians working abroad that there is no better time to come home.
Dans toutes ses actions, le gouvernement.
In all its actions, the government will be guided by a new fiscal discipline. Spend less so Canadians can invest more.
Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyze new investment, to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous.
I wish to express to you and to the people of Canada my heartfelt gratitude, and that of my wife, for the warmth of the welcome which we have received.
And reminds us the true North is indeed strong and free. Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorised by Parliament. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
And with the speech from the throne read by the sovereign, the members of Parliament are heading back to the House of Commons as we continue to show you the view inside the Senate itself. And you see there King Charles remains seated, flanked by Queen Camilla. To his left and to his right, the Prime Minister, and in the foreground of your shot, the Justices of the Supreme Court. And of course, as this continues, we will have full coverage, because at this point there is a divergence in the events that will be carried out in Ottawa. As members of Parliament make their way back to the House, the business of the House picks up as Parliament is now officially opened. And as for the King and Queen, well, they will make their way in the next hour or so across the street to the National War Memorial, where they will pay respect to Canada's war veterans and to the war dead. And right now, very much still in the upper chamber. And as we continue to watch what is happening there, because at this point it is very much ceremony, much protocol that we're waiting to unfold here. I think it's worthwhile to go to Andrew Thompson. Andrew, I may interrupt you. You are at the Senate right now, outside of where the King is. Actually, I'm going to interrupt myself. Let's just watch as His Majesty King Charles leaves the Red Chamber. And you can see His Majesty King Charles and Queen Camilla greeting members of Parliament. We saw there Ontario MP Charles Sousa now shaking the hands of the Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne behind the Protective Services there in the Senate. And as they walk out, a quick note, and there's Evan Solomon, the King, shaking his hands as he leaves. Many of the governing Liberals there to say a quick hello to the King. He is wrapping up, as we say, this quick 24-hour visit. And as he makes his way out of the Red Chamber, we'll also note the fact that the music that you hear, that is actually being provided by Morgan Grace, an 18-year-old Métis fiddler from East Selkirk, Manitoba. She played earlier in the Red Chamber as the members of the Senate and the dignitaries gathered there, including their Majesties, King Charles and Queen Camilla, awaited the members of Parliament to arrive at the Red Chamber to have the speech read. And, you know, as we watch this scene unfold, let's talk a little bit about the throne speech. Rob Bruce, I'll get you in because once the MPs return to the House, we will go back to the House. So I want to get the conversation in while we can. What stood out for you? Because clearly there were comments of sovereignty, comments of an economic plan. What stood out for you in that speech?
Well, this is one of the rare times that a Prime Minister gets to put words in the mouth of a monarch. And so every word is going to be weighed, every syllable is going to be weighed, and the syllables and words I was looking for were referring to Donald Trump's designs on Canada. And so here's what jumped out at me. All Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power or any continent can ever take away. That, I thought, was the clearest shot, the unmistakable message to Mr. Trump, scripted by the Prime Minister's office, which in essence said you can hobble our economy, but you cannot humble our country. I thought that's what jumped out.
Geneviève, pour vous?
Oui, la même chose pour moi. Cette affirmation
I agree.
de l'identité
That statement,
canadienne, de l'unité
that affirmation of Canadian identity and unity was very clear. Yes, there are external threats, but the focus was far more on what we can do to take responsibility and what we can do for ourselves. There was nothing particularly surprising. It was the same things that we heard during the campaign and in the mandate letter. So it was very much about how Canadians can take responsibility and prosper.
But I quickly want to go to Andrew Thompson because, Andrew, we were starting conversation a bit earlier on, right before the Sovereign left the upper chamber. And let's have a quick conversation because once he's in your hallway, I know you'll have to stop speaking. But talk to us about how the rest of this afternoon unfolds.
Yeah, in fact, lots of MPs here waiting for their chance to shake hands with the King and the Queen. After that happens, MPs, as you say, are going to head back up Wellington Street to the House chamber, and now they're going to get a chance to debate the content of what they heard in that speech from the throne. They've now heard the reason for the House of Commons being summoned to sit by the Crown, and just a bit of procedural information on what our viewers can expect to see once the House resumes sitting. A backbench member of the Liberal caucus will move a motion to formally thank the King for delivering the speech from the throne. There will be some debate today on that motion before the House adjourns for the day. And then the next day of debate on that speech, which could be tomorrow, that's called the Leaders' Day. That's where we hear from the party leaders, starting with the leader of the official opposition and then the Prime Minister. So there are several days of debate set aside for the speech from the throne. They don't necessarily have to be consecutive. There is, though, some other House business for the new House Speaker, Francis Scarpaleggia, to deal with today. He will have to oversee some routine procedural matters, including Prime Minister Mark Carney introducing his first bill. This is a traditional pro forma piece of legislation. It's called Bill C1. It's never really debated or voted on, but it essentially affirms the independence of the House of Commons to debate and vote on matters of its own choosing, not simply to rely on what's in the speech from the throne. This is a traditional symbol of the independence of the House of Commons, so you're going to see that. Also, watch for an order of supply from the government. That will allow for opposition days, which we see sprinkled throughout each parliamentary session. This is where the Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois will be able to put forward their own motions for debates and votes. Also, some other procedural questions to watch for in the House, Michael. The naming of a deputy speaker and assistant deputy speakers following yesterday's election of Francis Scarpaleggia as speaker. We're also waiting for appointments to the Board of Internal Economy. This is essentially the governing committee of the House of Commons. They handle financial and administrative matters. As well, we will wait to see committee assignments. The first committee that gets assigned are members of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. They then take on the task of forming other committees, Michael.
Okay, Andrew, thank you for that. Andrew Thompson there at the Senate, where the King is just leaving, and as we see a number of MPs still milling around hoping to get to say hello to the King and Queen. Now, from Andrew, before we go back to the conversation here, I do want to show people at home what's happening across the street from the Senate, the temporary Senate, where the throne speech was read today, because while the House Commons will get back to business, their Majesties will be going across the street. You are seeing there the honor guard around the tomb of the unknown lone soldier. This is at the National War Memorial, the National Cenotaph, and this is where Their Majesties will participate in a wreath laying to pay honor to Canadian veterans and to Canada's war dead. Their last official event before being brought back to the official reception centre at the Ottawa International Airport, from where they will head back to London. So all of that happening this afternoon. And let's pick up again in the conversation because, you know, once as MPs get back to the House of Commons, we will return to the House of Commons in full here on CPAC. But ahead of that, let's talk again about the throne speech that we heard there. You know, we heard a bit of what Rob's reflections were and what Geneviève had to say. For you, Catherine, what stood out for you?
Il y a des messages directs et des messages importants.
There are direct messages, important messages in this speech that go beyond the government's economic and other intentions. There was a message to Canadian francophonie across the country, French language and culture, and Quebec culture at the core of our Canadian identity.
They are getting back to the House of Commons. We will continue to watch what happens in the House of Commons right now. We'll have a bit more on the events of today a little later this afternoon. Catherine, sorry to cut you off, but Laurie, to everyone here around the table, thank you for the time today. You're watching CPAC. We'll see you again a little later this afternoon. But for now, back to the House of Commons as the mace is laid before the Speaker's chair. You're watching CPAC.
Watch it, David, you're in the way.
I know it sounds very unlikely if you know your father, but it is true. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. Lovely to see you. Thank you. It's not too hot out here, I hope. Good to meet you. Thank you very much. Good to see the medals there. Congratulations. You work, all of you at the house. Hey, you're on the house. We got the house here. You're going to see a lot of me. You're going to see a lot of me. Pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you, sir. How are the Bombers going to do?
They're going to Grey Cup.
They're going to Grey Cup? Guaranteed?
No.
that's why we play the game. Yeah. Fantastic. Lovely to see you. Great day. Great day. Great day for Library of Parliament. Okay, that's good. I don't have anything overdue yet. All good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming out. Hello.
Thanks for it's a lovely day.
Pleasure. How are you? Very excited. Good to meet you. Thanks for coming out. The king hasn't been by yet, right? No, good. This is where the warm-up act. That's good. That's good. That's the way it should be. How are you? Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming.
Prime Minister, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we got the king coming. Warm it up. Pleasure. How are you? Nice to see you.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes, what was it like in there?
It was very good, very powerful. It was great to see all the representatives of Canadian institutions there, the premiers, the Supreme Court justices, representatives of Indigenous peoples. It was very powerful, very moving, very Canadian. Yeah. Oui, absolument. Il a parlé en français, et son français est très bien. Mieux que moi, c'est presque le cas pour tout le monde, c'est mieux que moi. C'est le que la mienne. D'accord, merci. Pleasure. Nice to see you. Great to see you. Thank you for coming, warming up for the king. That's my job. And the queen, I should say. Boy, I've never seen so many medals. It's fantastic. You guys have done all these amazing things for Canada, haven't you? How are you? Nice to see you. God, what a great day.
Yes, I know.
Good day. Summer begins. Summer begins. I know it's strange when you have to get the sun from England. Normally it goes the other way around.
Anytime.
We're sending the sun to them. How are you? Nice to meet you. Thank you. I'll remember that. Merci, merci beaucoup.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you. Great. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming up. Thank you for what did you do for the? Is that right? Believe in the actually live it. Live it. The Canadian value. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I got the Queen's Jubilee Award.
Ah oui, moi aussi. Hein.
But I forgot to. Yes.
J'en ai mon médaille.
Vous devriez la
faire, mais il y a un peu de confusion. Et la prochaine fois que la roi et la reine visitent le Canada, je vais raconter. Okay, merci. Great to see you. Oh, hello. Oh, we got very official. See you soon in the house. I'll see you in the house. I'll behave. I thought the speaker was looking great. He did a very good job. Pleasure. Thanks for coming. Great. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming out. Prime Minister. Pleasure. Great to see you. God, everyone is so well dressed. We're in Ottawa. We're in Ottawa. I know, it's not for the king. That's great. Pleasure. Good day. Good day. Sir. Hello. Nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va?
Oui, ça va bien.
Oui, ça va très bien. Il fait beau.
C'est très beau.
La reine est ici. Le Canada est libre. Et fort.
Absolument. Il fait très beau.
Absolument, c'est ça. Enchanté. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome. Did you come from Toronto or you just like support? All that? Great.
Yeah, was the first responder for the fellow that was shot.
Bienvenue. Bienvenue. Merci, monsieur. Merci. Plaisir. Merci, Martin. Bonjour. Enchanté.
And you were at the World was just yes. Just up here to the left. Just coming the road. Just coming the road. So take one your step.
Your Majesty's offered you.
Just more space. Guys, give us more space.
I don't need two cameras, I just need one.
Crossing no further. Cross on the left.
Can we create some space for stills?
To the crossing. No, to the crossing and back there. Crossing just here.
Have we got a stills camera?
Guys, we're crossing here.
Have a cross, please.
No. Okay, I'm getting like pulled over here. Yeah, just this group here, so then we're over to the memorial. Just on your right hand side.
Step behind.
I'm very glad to see the bicycle match. Get close, keep your focus and enjoy the moment, okay? Thanks, guys. Guys, we'll get you here. Yeah, let's just take a step back from your neck. Take a step back. No, back. You want to get a picture of it? Help. Just take a step backwards.
I want him on this side.
Okay, that's good.
Get it out. Get it out. Back up. Get it out, and then we're all good.
Okay, guys, we're going to move again. Sorry, guys. Guys, as soon as we get close, push the button and enjoy your moment.
Thank you for a great job.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Just take a step back so we can get a picture for us now. Jag, we're good to hear.
Because you guys preventing my
stays.
That's going on.
The life goal, if he stays like this, it's perfect.
I want him inside. Come here. Come here.
Put the keeper, put the keeper. So, back. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys, you get what you needed. Thanks, guys.
Tell us quite a way to go. Okay.
Put my phones away.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the moment.
Thank you.
No, that's not live. He's staying there. Yeah, you know you are, so you should be next to him. Yeah, that's what it means. All right? Thank you.
Guys, we're good to hear. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the moment, guys. Guys, don't forget, put your foot inside, enjoy the moment. Thanks, guys. Jack, I will point when you need to slow. Yeah, keep going, keep going. Okay, guys,
Yeah.
Guys, as you get close, put your phone inside, enjoy the moment. Thank you so much.
Young lady with the tartan.
Guys, spray the pass first.
To the side.
Jack, follow me. Jack, follow me. Watch the stand.
Yeah.
Let's get the leg in. Right there. Move the pool in.
Let's go. On the road, everyone, please. Sorry to grab you, everyone. Off.
Guys, if we can clear the pavement, it would be even amazing. Lovely. Thanks. So I'll be doing another inspection. No, just a salute. Yes. Exactly.
You're right in the way.
Thank you.